Abigail is a 2024 horror comedy directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette from a screenplay written by Stephen Shields and Guy Busick. It's based on and a reimagining of the 1936 Universal classic monsters film Dracula's Daughter. It stars Alicia Weir, Melissa Barrera, Catherine Newton, Dan Stevens, Giancarlo Esposito, and Angus Cloud in his final performance. After a group of criminals kidnap the daughter of a powerful underworld figure, they retreat to an isolated mansion, unaware that they are locked inside with no normal little girl. So I just got back from seeing Abigail in theaters, and I gotta tell you guys, this movie is so much fun. For what it's trying to do, I'm not sure anyone could do a better job, because it is a horror movie and it has a lot of horror movie elements. It's very vampire forward and pays tribute and has a lot of little things that go back to the Universal Monsters lore. But it does some new things with that as well. But on top of that, it's really funny, but it isn't what I would consider a comedy. Even though it's listed as a horror comedy, I think the comedy is more of, there's just certain lines here and there, there's certain characters that are kind of dumb and what they say is funny from time to time, but it's not like they're setting up jokes. It's not really an overtly funny movie. It just really leans into that vampire horror element. But it's also just a blast. I mean, as much as it's dark and creepy and unnerving and there's a lot of mood, I mean, tons and tons of mood and atmosphere put into it, it's also just entertaining and exciting and fun to watch. And the cast here is just incredible. Sadly, Angus Cloud died shortly after the making of this film, but he did a great job in this, and the rest of the cast, I mean, Melissa Barrera really steals the show in this, but everybody, Dan Stevens, I mean, everybody has their role to play, and they do a great job. But Melissa Barrera shines because she's such a badass in this, and yet she's smart and cunning and has to kind of figure out things. She's just a great hero to follow through this. And I was a little concerned about halfway through this movie if the trailer showed me everything, because a lot of what I saw in the trailer, I was kind of seeing in the first half of this movie. And as good as the first half was, the second half is where there was a ton of things that were not in the trailer, some big surprises, and just, I mean, buckets of blood. It's just funny, it's gory, it's graphic, it's exciting. It's got all the things that you want in a fun horror movie. And especially for a vampire movie, because we've seen a number of vampire movies lately. We had a couple last year, and they're decent, they've been okay, but we haven't seen one with teeth, so to speak. I mean, ones that are bloody, ones that the vampires are scary and intimidating. And as funny as it is, here's this little pint-sized girl in this, and yet she is just terrifying, man. She is just all the way turned up at times. But once again, I gotta give it up to Radio Silence. They just know horror. You could tell that they're just fans of horror. And I expect nothing less from these guys at this point, because I absolutely adored Ready or Not, as well as the last two Screams, Ready or Not especially. But this, to me, it falls right in there. And I'm glad, in a way, to see them not attached to the Scream property anymore, because I think I like them better when they have the freedom to just kind of do whatever. And so I love this movie and Ready or Not because it has a lot of those unique elements and creative ideas that they have. There's no handcuffs and nothing holding them to a certain IP saying that they can or cannot do certain things. And so it just really leaves them free to do some crazy things. I'm also so glad that this movie's rated R and that they really leaned into it. I mean, this movie, like I said, there's buckets of blood. I mean, it gets gory, it gets gross, it's insane, man. There are some really over-the-top elements in this, but they're a blast. I mean, they're just exactly what you want in a horror movie. And it's great too because it's one of those movies that just really gets going and never stops. There isn't much waiting around at all. I mean, pretty much in the first few minutes, you kind of get a setup. of what's going on, and you get a little bit of who each character is, but then it pretty much just gets going and doesn't stop. It's intense, it's exciting, it's definitely got a little camp and a little cheesiness, but to me it has just a smidge, just enough of that it makes it fun to watch. There's a lot of action as well, and some really well done special effects, stunt work. I mean, you can see a lot of practical effects done here. Really a well done movie in just about every way you can think of. And it just blows my mind the last month or so of horror movies we've got, because it's just one after another. It feels like every single week there's another horror movie coming out, and they're all really, really good. I mean, yes, there's been a few stinkers, but for the most part, it's been one of the best runs of horror movies in theaters we've seen in quite a while. And at this point, I don't even know which one is my favorite, but I'll tell you this is definitely up there, and especially for the fun factor. I mean, it doesn't get more fun than this, and the rewatchability. This movie has a lot of that. Like, I can't wait to watch this again, because there's a few twists and turns throughout, and so rewatching it, knowing certain things that happen, like, even if you've seen the trailer, trust me, you don't know what actually happens in this movie. As much as they do show in the trailer, like I said, they front loaded it. They did a good job of kind of showing you little bits and pieces, but not showing you too much that it really, really takes away from what's happening. They didn't pull a Blumhouse, so to speak, where they just basically give you the whole movie in the trailer. It's also an extremely well lit, well shot movie. The soundtrack, they did a great job of using these classic Universal score as well as some new stuff mixed in. It just had a really good feel about it. It was fun, but yet it had a real classic vibe to it. And that's the thing I would say in general about this movie that made me so impressed, is it feels like a classic horror movie in a lot of ways. It feels like something from the 80s. It has, Lost Boys flavor and just different great horror movie feel to it without feeling old and dated. It's very much a modern movie, but like, they did a great job of capturing what makes vampires and Dracula and all of the famous Universal vampire stuff, what makes it so special. I think they really put it in here. So I think it's a fantastic movie that you should absolutely see in theaters. Like, I think it's a must that you see it as soon as possible in theaters. It's a movie that I highly recommend.
I fucking hate ballet.
But that's gonna do it for me today. Thank you so much for checking this out. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this every single week, I also want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here. You guys mean so much to me. And if you would like to help support the channel over on Patreon, there's a link down in the description. Or if you want to become a channel member and help support the channel that way, there's a button right down there that says join. But like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. And if you enjoyed this, click right here to watch me talk about another horror movie that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And I'll see you guys next time.